I'm Nancy Mezzi. I'm the Dean of the Honor School, and I have the pleasure of doing the introduction here this morning and welcoming you to the Honor School Spring 2023 Research Conference. And before we begin, I just want to ask that you silence your cell phones, please. So a main purpose of the Honor School is to create a space for our high ability, highly motivated, high achieving students, to create an intellectual space for them to explore their intellectual passions, to ask engaging questions, and to try to come up with solutions to those questions. And we do that largely through our curriculum, which culminates in either a research thesis or a creative capstone. And you're going to see both of those this morning in this session. I do want to point out that we have, in an attempt to be both environmentally and economically frugal, we have our full program through the QR code, and that'll give you the abstract and everything else for all of the students' work. So to complete their work, our students need to show passion and tenacity, they have to have perseverance, and they have to have focus. And all of the students presenting in this session have shown all of that. And this is the end of that work, the culmination of that good work, and so really proud of the work that you're doing. And each of our students had to work with at least one faculty advisor, sometimes two, with what we call readers, who have mentored and guided and supported our students throughout their entire process, which for many of these students has been close to 2 years in the making. And so the Honor School does not exist without our faculty. We can't run without our faculty. We can only get our students so far, and then we have to pass them off. And students have heard me say all the time, like in a discipline that I don't know, because I'm a sociologist, they'll say, yeah, I'm just making this up, right? Because somebody else, there's some faculty here who's not making it up, and they actually can guide you. And so before we move forward, I just want to say thank you to all of our faculty mentors and supporters and advisors. So can we just give them a round of applause? I work with the Honors Council, which is a group of about 20 faculty members who support and advise me. And we've talked about how can we change the honor, should we change the structure of an honors thesis? And one of the things that we've decided not to do is to take away that opportunity for students to work one-on-one with faculty members, because that's just such a meaningful opportunity, and it's an unusual opportunity for our students. Students were also supported by staff and administrators across the university, including Res Life, including admissions, including our deans and our provost and our president. But I want to just point out two people today. Doris Meyer, the assistant to the dean in the Honor School, who's put together this entire program, who runs our office, and who keeps us moving smoothly. So Doris, thank you so much for everything that you've done. And our newest member of our team, Assistant Dean Jenny Ross, who came in December of this year and has really jumped in, and probably all of the students have now heard from her. She's keeping track of our students, she's mentoring our students, she's looking at data and doing so much of a job, and she's really, in the 4 months that you've been here, something like that, really just taking charge, and we can't do it without her. So thank you, Dean Ross. So now I want to get back to our students. You'll hear, when you hear people talk about honor students, we often talk about honor students as being the best and the brightest, or the cream of the crop, and I rarely use that language. I think that so many of our students at Monmouth University, whether they're in the honor school or not, are fabulous students. And so I try really hard not to use elite language. But today I'm going to use, strategically, I'm going to use elite language. Nationwide, only about 40 to 60% of students who enter into honors programs complete those honors programs. And often it's because the thesis and their capstone is where they don't want to continue on. And so the 5 students that are presenting today, all of the students that are presenting today, are elite students. And you really are, and you should take some pride in that moment, because you have started this project, you have come up with really engaging questions, unique questions, and you have worked really, really hard to answer them. And that puts you in a very, very unique and, quite honestly, elite position for an undergraduate student. And so I hope you know how proud we are. So on behalf of the entire Monmouth University community, we are really, really proud of you. Kudos to all of your hard work, and congratulations on being almost done. But you can start doing some deep breathing. You're okay. You're good. The other thing about the Honors Council is that the Honors Council adjudicates, that those 20 faculty members who work closely with me adjudicate an award for the best thesis or capstone. So in the next week or so, you all are going to be receiving, and you all, I mean these 5 students right here, are going to be receiving an email from Dean Ross. Please open it and consider applying for that award. It's the Honors Council Award for best thesis or capstone. So just keep an eye out for that. So again, everybody, welcome to this conference. Congratulations to our students for just an incredible accomplishment. And I'm going to present the first presenter as soon as I pull it up here. And I don't know if you can see this very well, but like how carefully Doris has like created this and made it so easy for me. So our first presenter of this session, if I can get it up here. Here we go, is Ashley Ng, who's a communication student with a focus in media studies and production, who's worked with Dr. Deanna Shoemaker. Ashley, you're up.
Okay, so. Hi, my name is Ashley. For my thesis, I wanted to conduct research on the underlying effects social media has on our society today, and more specifically in younger generations. For my presentation today, I will be going over my findings from research, my own study, and the results in discussion, the limitations, and looking towards future studies. Before we begin, with a show of hands, who here uses social media on a daily basis? When looking around the room, I would say that 99% of us raised our hands. How is that? Our society today has become too reliant on social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok to connect with others, distract themselves from reality, and impacting their mental health. The purpose of my study was, 1, to educate people about the significant impact social media has on younger generations based on my findings in research, 2, encourage positive social media habits, and 3, enforce a healthier balance, increase in skills and productivity in daily routine. Now, social media can never be a replacement for real-world connection, as it requires in-person contact with others that trigger hormones that alleviate stress and make you feel happier, healthier, and overall more positive. For my research, I focused on 3 main themes: 1, body image, self-harm, and misinformation. Starting with body image, young adolescents who are spending an excessive amount of time on social media tend to come across multiple messages of what society defines to be pretty or, in most cases, socially acceptable. One study included participants who reported spending over more than 11 hours per day on social media. Moreover, individuals tend to rely on other people's feedback on their posts. This means likes, comments, shares to validate whatever they're posting, whether it's pictures or videos. If one doesn't receive as many likes on one picture than another, they might think something is wrong with it. In an article, the authors mentioned the term upward social comparison, which means people come across other media whom they feel perceived to be better than them. They feel like they aren't good enough because they simply don't look like what they're looking at. Next, with self-harm, researchers have found that there have been a rise in suicide cases due to social media use. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 46,000 people in the United States committed suicide in 2020. That's a rate of 14 people per 100,000, and among children and young adults between the ages of 10 and 24, the suicide rate is 10.7 per 100,000. Now, that might not seem a lot to some, but suicide is the second leading cause of death. Lastly, misinformation. It encourages misperceptions and facilitates decisions based on false beliefs, posing threats to society and an individual's well-being. The accuracy with people that can discern between fake and real news is one of the most important aspects of building credibility for messages. Social media has a big influencing factor to it. People who are not influenced by people with higher power, such as government or health officials, hope to gain favorable reactions from a person or group, not necessarily because they believe the content. One thing that stuck out to me throughout my entire research was from a Forbes article, and he used the term sitting is the new smoking. Sitting is one of the worst things that we can do for our health, but what is more concerning is what we are doing while we are sitting, which is scrolling through endless feeds of social media. This causes young adolescents to create unhealthy habits and attachment styles while possibly becoming negatively influenced by the media that they are constantly consuming. Moving on to my study done through content analysis, which is defined as a key research tool used to determine the presence of certain words, themes, or concept within some given qualitative data, i.e. text. The major themes I looked closely to were body image disorders, comparison and identity, feeds, algorithm and addiction, distractions and disconnecting, and loneliness, depression, and burnt out. Beginning with body image, there was an interview done with the Global Glow team with 15-year-old Brielle. Brielle opens about her experience with social media, and immediately what comes to her mind when asked about the term body image were two terms, appearance and health. She emphasizes how society has placed a huge expectation on the appearance part of body image rather than the health aspect of it. Based on personal stories, girls were skipping meals and adding extra cardio workouts to their routine so that they would lose weight. Similarly, Martin Scorsese expresses her frustration with social media and how fake it can be. Her words read, "You're so lucky, I'm like size 4, need your legs, your cheekbones that you skipped lunch for." With that being said, something that isn't talked about a lot on social media is how people who have slimmer physiques tend to be dealing with eating disorders that we don't know of. Second, comparison and identity. No matter how much time an individual spends on social media, they are prone to comparing themselves to what they are seeing on social media. Everybody wants to be seen happy, but the reality is some of the happiest seeming people are actually some of the saddest people in reality. With the evolution of editing platforms, it is harder to identify what pictures are actually being edited or not. As consumers of media, we tend to see what we think is the entire lives of celebrities, when in reality, it's only a few seconds of their 24-hour day. Social media is completely filled with filter images and fake personas. Therefore, trying to achieve unrealistic lifestyles based on celebrities, whether it revolves around body image, health, or happiness, traveling, etc. Looking deeper into social media feeds, algorithms, and addiction, media platforms are getting really good at curating content that is specific to an individual. In 2020, The Social Dilemma came out on a Netflix film. Multiple individuals who are former employees of social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram expressed how the severity of these platforms are rising because these apps are getting better at putting out content that we like to see and what we want to see. And moving on to distractions and connecting, Schaufman shares a story about social media and how he quit for a month. He emphasizes that there were constant thoughts about his next post, stopping to capture that perfect picture and ignoring whoever he was with. And then lastly, loneliness, depression, and burnt out. There was a spoken word piece by Michael Agnew. He put his feeling into words. The words keep spinning, yet I never move. The amount of time being spent on social media disassociates ourselves from what is actually happening in the world. You find yourself to be alone in a room, looking at all the cool things that other people get to do. As you become more lonely, the more you scroll. I focused on 3 main celebrities: Kendall Jenner, a model, Selena Gomez, a singer, actress, and then Hailey Bieber, a media personality. They all openly talk about social media and their struggles with it, and even though they have different occupations, they're still in the public eye. In an interview, Kendall Jenner explains her frustration with social media platforms. Quote, "My relationship with social media is, a bit addictive right now, which I'm not proud to say, but I also feel like it's something that probably most of us can relate to." Selena Gomez goes on in a video and talks about her depression and how she has dealt with it for over 5 years straight. It has changed her life going off of social media as she has her assistant running it, and she's happier, more present, and she can connect with more people. Lastly, Hailey Bieber, she also uploaded a series of videos talking about her struggles and how she feels like it's separating 2 realities, and she wouldn't go on Twitter because she felt like she would throw up because of all of the information that she was getting in all the comments. And the limitations to my study: 1, I focused on studies more with women than in men. And then 2, I had a limited outlet of sources. I only looked at YouTube. And 3, self-perpetuating cycle. The more that we go on social media, the more that we spend time on social media, we tend to get sucked in about what people expect of us. And then 4, IRB interviews. I wanted to connect with people I know personally to get their stories. And then 5, black hole. We can't seem to get away from it, even though we want to get away from it. We just feel like we're stuck in this cycle of social media. And personally, why this matters to me so much is I am an aspiring content creator, and social media has become a part of my life, and I see how it affects my day-to-day when spending too much time on it. Thank you.
So the way that this works is every student gets 8 minutes presentation, 2-minute Q&A. So a little bit, so we'll do a shorter Q&A.
Yeah.
We're okay. I get to be the so questions.
Yeah.
Awesome job. Do you know which social media has more of an impact?
I would say based on like all the research I've done and like my personal use, I would say Instagram or TikTok, just because 1, they're the most popular out of like all the social media platforms that younger generations are using now. And I feel like on TikTok, a lot more people are posting whatever they want, whether that is their body or if that's their skin or what they're eating or like what they're doing throughout the day. But on Instagram, I feel like it's harder because people are editing the photos that they're posting, and we don't know if it's real or fake, even if they're a celebrity or not.
So just so you all know, we have 30 students presenting today, so it's my job to make sure we finish by a reasonable hour. But really nice job and really important research. And I have some questions, but I'll save them for afterwards. We'll chat. So, I gotta pause it. All right. So our second presenter is Corey Engelhardt, a communication student in media studies and production, working with Dr. Aaron Ferguson and Dr. Joanne Jody. I just want to say just a shout out here. So for those of you who know, we have faculty who work with mostly undergraduate students, and we have faculty who work almost exclusively with graduate students. And I'm just so thrilled, and I want to thank our graduate faculty who really generally only work with graduate students. We have Dr. Joanne Jodry and Dr. Megan Delaney who are here. Thank you for dipping into the undergraduate world. And I'm also going to thank right up front Dr. Christina Merks, who used to just work with graduate students, but then left the university and is still here. So I have to do that shout out. I mean, all of our faculty are important, but the fact that you guys are, I can encourage students to see all of you and use all of you is just really, really expands their opportunities. So thank you. Corey, you're up.
What's going on, everybody? I don't have a whole PowerPoint presentation. I did a film as my creative capstone project. So I spent the first semester of the proposal studying in on all Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, yoga. And I didn't want to take a typical academic approach to it, so everything I learned, I then put into practice. So essentially the whole time I was learning everything, I was doing it. I was doing the meditation, I was doing the yoga, I'm doing all these different techniques that I'm learning that people have been doing for thousands of years. Really shifted my perspective. And what I wanted to do and what I wanted to capture in this film was what I learned, like, by putting all that stuff into practice, by meditating and going out for a sunrise and doing yoga on the jetty and doing stuff that, I don't know, some people may think is like weird in our Western world. I wanted to see like how I found myself through it. It was kind of an interesting experiment, finding myself, finding like a presence in this world. So here, without me giving it too much away, but yeah, so this is it, and I'm calling it The Wanderer. So. I'm a wanderer. I never had a direction or a purpose. I just followed my feet. But that was my predicament. I couldn't be where my feet were. I just couldn't be present. I couldn't come to appreciate what is. I was always in a rush to go somewhere, get someone, feel something,
then I'll be happy. Anything to make this moment better. But that's the illusion, and I got lost in it. I'm glad that I got lost. I had to get lost. I had no choice. I didn't know where else to go but deeper into the illusion. How could I know anything if I thought that I already knew everything? I had to accept it. I had to accept that I knew nothing. And I wanted to know. I wanted to know so bad. But the desire to know drove knowing further away. My desire meant that I was discontent with where I was right now. So if I really wanted to know, I had to give up the desire to know. I had to trust that all was in order, that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I had to surrender. I had to let go. Now, here I am, on an adventure. I set out on a journey knowing the journey itself is the destination. I don't know where I am or where I'm going, and somehow that makes me feel close to home. I find comfort in the subtleties of the journey. I'm here for each step. I'm here for each breath. I'm here for this moment. I've been waiting for a long time to know which moment I was searching for. But this is it. I lost myself to find this moment, right here, right now. This is all there is. Now that I see it, I realize it's been with me this whole time. I couldn't begin to put this into words, right? Because this doesn't need words. Words are imperfect, but this is. All it took was a remembering. And now I remember. I took a step back. I just shifted my perspective. I didn't go anywhere. I've been here all this time. But somehow, now is the first time I've really seen it. It's the first time I've seen myself. I see that it's all perfect, just as it needs to be. Everything's in place. And I'm just here to experience it all. This life is a dance. I realize there's not a purpose to the dance. You just dance to dance. The dance is the joy. And the dance is happening right now. Since I'm here right now, my life is a dance, effortless and blissful. I'm here through it all, as I always have. Now that I realize, even if I wanted to, I could never go back. I know too much by knowing nothing at all. There was nothing that I needed to know, nothing that I needed to be. My purpose is to be. And now I am, just being. It's all a part of the dance. I had to let go of who I thought I was. I had to forget so that I could remember. But now that I remember, I can never forget. There's no secret knowledge or wisdom. It's just love. I'm always here because I love it here. I love this. This is the present. This is the gift. All I can say is thank you.
So I set out making that film, and it was interesting because I wasn't really sure. I know I came into Dean Mezzi's office a couple of times, was unsure exactly what direction I was going, and had no idea, and I kind of just let it fall into place the whole time. I used the first semester to really learn all the stuff and put it into practice, and in the second semester, the winter break, I just learned all about filmmaking and dove in YouTube University and just taught myself as much as I could know about filmmaking and going from start to finish with the storyboards and doing creative drawings and putting together a soundtrack in the background. If you notice, I put all the steps and all the waves and all that stuff in. I engineered all that in the background, and then writing the narration, that was the last thing. I finished the whole film and then kind of sat there for more than a couple hours just going over and over, writing words on top of words and taking them out. But yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed my vision, but I'll open it up to questions now.
Hi, can you stand behind the microphone?
Oh, yes, I can, sorry.
The camera, thank you.
Yeah.
I love all the creative making that you did. It was really compelling. I was wondering, just for context, was there a central research, maybe not research-based, but a question or a dilemma that you were trying to explore before you started?
Yeah, I think, oh, this is loud. I think what I was trying to explore was more or less the concept of presence. And when I started looking into all the Eastern philosophy, Hinduism, Buddhism, what I noticed is I was looking into it because I thought I was going to like read something, it was going to blow my mind, and I was going to be, oh, like I'm so much better than everybody else. But I realized that all it was, they're talking about equanimity, and they're talking about seeing other people as yourself, and they're talking about being present here in this moment. And I realized like the whole entire thing was so simple, and that's kind of why I didn't include any of the stuff that I researched in the first semester, because I felt like I didn't need to in the words in the film. It was more or less just the message of like being here now and embodying the concept of love and seeing other people as like your other selves, seeing the world as a reflection of you. Oh, over there.
Which part of what you learned and what you presented are you going to start to use on a daily basis going forward?
All of it, honestly. I've been practicing doing yoga and qigong, meditation. I've been reading all these texts and whatnot, and I started doing it for the film to really research it and understand it. And now, like yesterday, I woke up and I'm going back and reading over the stuff that I was reading the first semester, just trying to understand it even more. But yeah, I think that it'll probably be for the rest of my life. I'll be practicing yoga and doing all this sort of stuff and trying to enhance myself, just grow as a person.
Corey, this is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Thank you so much.
As somebody who's still in my age feels like a wonder. I was just wondering, now that you learned all these skills, how do you see yourself from here? What other questions do you want to explore through this medium?
Do you mean as in explore like what I was doing, or like as like a career path? Oh, okay. So honestly, doing this film really opened up my eyes. Like I came to college to make videos. Like I loved making videos all my life. I came to college to make videos, and then I kind of fell away from it. I never stopped, but I never like really got into it. And in this project, I used it as an opportunity to align everything that I'm passionate about and kind of take the video and take all the other stuff I'm interested in and put it into one intentional and direction. So yeah, I think I'm gonna keep going, moving forward, doing films for the rest of for my career path. I would love to be going into film and going into video and production and all that stuff. So for
It's less of a question than a comment. It's interesting that your film responds to Ashley's social media. Right? And that be in the present, don't be online.
yeah, no, I think that's what gets us caught up in not being here is like we have all these escapes. Like, oh, I don't want to be here right now. Let me just hop on my phone and leave. Like that's how simple it is, how easy it is. And I don't know.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I want to add that you made a comment before you put the video that was kind of like, this is great to talk about in the Western world, and I feel like now it's more important to talk about than ever, especially because like you have to deal with social media and a lot of the noise in the outside folks. I feel like it's important to practice like yoga, meditation, and all that. And I feel like it should be talked about more.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's just about finding who you are, who you are as a person, accepting yourself and stuff. I think, like Ashley said, like it's hard to do that when you so consumed with all the other people you compare yourself to. So.
I have questions, but we are going to run out of time.
Yeah.
So I'll catch up. Yeah, thank you, Corey. I was going to recommend that you might consider looking for a film festival that you put this into. Try to find a film festival that, for shorts that might work. And then something I'll ask you later, but I'll ask it here, but you can answer it later, is have you incorporated this at all in the work that you're doing with the football team? Because you play on the football, right? Not anymore. You don't play on football. Okay, so you don't have to worry about them asking you about this. All right. Excellent. All right. right. So our third presenter is Mia Lewis, a health studies student with a focus on health science who worked with Dr. with Dr. Stacy Drusen. Can't even read my own handwriting. So Mia, you're on.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mia Lewis, and today I will be presenting my honors thesis titled The Impact of the COVID-19 Pandemic on Undergraduate Students' Physical and Mental Health. The coronavirus has affected people from all over the world, and the fight against it continues on today. To prevent the spread of COVID-19, various lockdowns and restrictions, such as social distancing and quarantine, have been implemented to keep people within their homes for extended periods of time. The primary purpose of this study was to investigate how the COVID-19 pandemic impacted undergraduate students' physical and mental health during 3 different time periods, including before the epidemic, during the nationwide shift to remote learning on college campuses, and present day now that restrictions are lifted. I started to evaluate various articles to essentially learn more about the COVID-19 pandemic and its influence on the physical as well as mental well-being of specifically undergraduate students. The primary findings I found from these articles was that physical exercise has been found to improve people's physical health and mental health. Once lockdown was mandated, the level of physical exercise significantly decreased and sedentary behavior had increased. Undergraduate students reported experiencing a rise in negative emotions such as depression and anxiety. And lastly, the physical and mental health of undergraduate students improved during the post-COVID-19 lockdown period. It was hypothesized that during the COVID-19 lockdown, undergraduate students would observe an improvement in their physical health due to having more free time to exercise, and therefore, it would result in their mental health becoming stronger. I also hypothesized that undergraduate students' physical as well as mental health would continue to improve once restrictions from the lockdown were lifted. As for my methodology, a pilot study was done in the spring of 2022. From the pilot study and the literature review, an 18-item online survey was created through Qualtrics pertaining to how the COVID-19 pandemic impacted undergraduate students' physical as well as mental well-being in relation to their exercise habits. Participants were also directed to fill out 2 other surveys named the Patient Health Questionnaire, which is PHQ-9, which is used to measure depression levels, as well as the General Anxiety Disorder, GAD-7, which is used to measure anxiety levels. Before the survey was sent out, Monmouth University IRB reviewed as well as approved all documents. About 54 prospective participants had been recruited through the aid of the co-investigators, university, professors, and varying social media platforms. Qualtrics put all the de-identified data into an Excel file to be evaluated, and descriptive statistics were presented. Finally, a cross-sectional analysis was carried out. A majority of the participants were female senior undergraduates who mostly attended a 4-year university. Also, the subjects were primarily non-student athletes. In these graphs, the blue columns represent the time period before the COVID-19 pandemic, the red columns represent the time period of the nationwide shift to remote learning, and the green columns represent the present day. As seen in the graph regarding the atmosphere on college campuses, more activities were offered before the COVID-19 pandemic, and therefore there was a high level of engagement by students. But the amount of activities and participation declined during the nationwide shift to remote learning. Even when the COVID-19 restrictions were lifted, more activities and events were offered, but the level of participation is still not as high due to people being used to living a life with little socialization. As for the number of hours of exercise people engaged in per week, it was the highest before the COVID-19 pandemic, but significantly decreased during the nationwide shift to remote learning because of limited access to workout facilities. Although physical exercise increased with restrictions being lifted, the amount of physical exercise is still not to the same level as it was before the COVID-19 pandemic. While people experienced negative emotions before the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of individuals who reported enduring negative emotions significantly increased during the nationwide shift to remote learning and continued to persist even when the restrictions were lifted. The PHQ-9 and the GAD-7 further reinforce these results that many undergraduate students' mental health is still suffering from depression and anxiety because of the difficulty of transitioning back to a life of normalcy. When evaluating whether participants' physical health improved, worsened, or stayed the same from the COVID-19 pandemic, it was equally split, and it may be because people had different accessibility to workout equipment and/or facilities. However, over half of the individuals reported that their mental health decreased, and it may be due to having lost loved ones from the virus and not properly addressing these negative emotions. In conclusion, my initial hypotheses were both wrong because undergraduate students' physical and mental health both declined during the nationwide shift to remote learning. Even though undergraduate students' physical health slightly improved since the lifting of restrictions, their mental health continues to suffer today. As for limitations for the study, the sample size was small and therefore may not have given an accurate representation of the physical and mental health of this population group during these 3 time periods. The COVID-19 pandemic demonstrated that undergraduate students' mental health should be prioritized during difficult times by providing them the necessary resources. I would like to thank Dean Mezzi, Dr. Drusen, Dr. Merks, and my friends and family who have supported me throughout my time at Monmouth University and who have continued to push me to where I am today. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Did you find out anything interesting about like the impact of social anxiety on the pandemic?
I mainly focus on the depression and anxiety levels, but even like I witnessed that people's sleep quality really impacted how their mental health was. So people who experience low sleep quality experience a decrease in their mental health.
And what was your thought behind finding your research?
I feel like as a freshman, I wasn't consistent with my physical exercise, and even my eating habits, just eating at the dining hall wasn't the best. And I feel like COVID-19, when we were put into lockdown, it really gave me the chance to readjust my schedule, and I was able to work out more consistently, just change my eating habits, and I felt like it was a time that I could take for myself, even though it was such a difficult time for a lot of people, and even for myself. I feel like I used exercise and just readjusting my habits as a way to cope throughout the pandemic. And I wanted to see how other students like myself dealt with how they dealt with the COVID-19 lockdown. Yes.
Michelle, so the implications of your findings, how do you think we can help students reconnect with like psych services or get involved in these events that are being planned, but the attendance is super low? Like there's a disconnect, but how do we fix that?
Definitely working as like an honors peer mentor. I worked when all the restrictions were still on campus, and it was really difficult just trying to get people involved because we had a social distance, there wasn't a lot of activities offered, and I feel like now that things are opening up, it's really important to have a lot of resources available on campus, even if it's just like group activities. I know that they just had goat yoga, and I feel like that's a really good way to relieve stress and also get physical exercise in, and also encourage socialization amongst people. Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious if you, like in your discussion section, talks about why you think the mental health problems persist. I have a million thoughts.
I was really, since everything was being lifted, I thought people's mental health would immediately return back to that normal state because everyone's being able to socialize with each other. But I feel like during that time period, a lot of people got used to just that isolation period, and they weren't able to cope with it in a proper way just because they didn't have access to it. And I feel like that's really important to talk about today and try to provide those resources for students.
Thank you, Bea.
Thank you.
all these issues of mental health and being present, just want to let you know that on Tuesday night, I think it's 7 o'clock, Doris, do I have that right? There are going to be puppies at the library, so if you want to hang out, yeah. And be present with the puppies. I can't think of a better way to be present as with little furry creatures like that. Thank you, Mia. One of my questions was really sort of what Dr. Delaney was sort of asking, is like, what are the long, I mean, we don't have a crystal ball, right? But what are the long-term effects of this pandemic? And as a sociologist, I feel like we're living through this history and we're trying to analyze it in real time, and I'm just really concerned about what the long-term effects are. So maybe it'll go back to being present and just being rather than trying to think about all these things all at once. But maybe that's why the movie Everything All at Once Everywhere, I just got that title totally wrong, came out. But you know, I do worry about these things. I'm glad people are looking at them. Makes me feel better as I enter old age that we've got students really concerned about mental health, isn't it? Yeah, maybe there is hope in the world. So our next presenter is Chiara Zambone, also a health studies student with a focus on exercise science, who's worked with Dr. Jamie Pigman and Dr. Christina Merks. And Dr. Merks, I didn't have listed that you worked with Mia as well, but I think you did, so I apologize for not putting your name there as well. So thank you. So Chiara, you're up.
So I did my honors capstone project on Achilles tendon ruptures in athletics. So just an overview, the Achilles tendon attaches the calf muscle to the heel bone. It's placed on a lot of stress load during walking, running, and many daily activities, especially within athletics. With a lot of explosive movements, cutting happens, tears a lot. The body is normally able to quickly adjust to any kind of movement that it's put under in terms of being put under stress during sports. Factors that I investigated throughout the process were different types of mechanism of injury that can affect it, surgical outcomes if it were to tear, rehabilitation, and performance outcomes post-surgery, along with prevention to help prevent it, obviously, before it tears. Athletes should be aware of potential added risk factors that could put them at a higher risk of rupturing it. From what I found, it was very difficult for athletes to be able to fully recover and get back to the level of play that they were at prior to the injury. So for my methods, I conducted a lit review with Dr. Merks for this project and turned it into a capstone. And I made it into a pamphlet and a website for just information for athletes to have easy access to be able to have a way to look at this if they were going through it or want to find ways to prevent it, and it's just easy for them to access. So I specifically looked at different mechanism of injuries. So injuries within aerial athletics, which isn't really, it's mainly used for came down to different technique patterns with footfall, and it mainly was due to extrinsic factors when they're landing. Antibiotic usage also played a role in Achilles tendon ruptures, specifically with medications that were within the fluoroquinolone drug class. And this occurred after athletes had taken it as well as during, so it had a long-term effect on the tendon. Corticosteroid injections were also used as last resorts for bursitis in the area due to high correlation of Achilles tendon ruptures after. Obesity was also causing various post-operative problems, which led to doctors not wanting to repair the tendon for people. And this also led to issues with having the Achilles tendon ruptured due to obesity as well. And runners put a high stress load on their Achilles tendon, which can differ based on any given footfall pattern. So different runners have different footfall patterns, and that can put them at a higher risk. So this is my capstone project. I have pamphlets to pass around. So. So the QR code on the back of the pamphlets brings you directly to this website that goes through, this is mainly what I had worked on in my lit review, and I turned it into an informative website for athletes. So within the website, there's different pages and interactive buttons that take you back to the main page. So there's an introduction page. There's also the mechanism of injury pages are broken down into their subcategories here that can be clicked on and linked to the specific pages, as well as a page for the surgical outcomes, along with different videos that are embedded within the website itself. And the videos are mainly there to just help athletes gain further understanding of the topic. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Some questions?
I just want to make a comment.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. And thank you for recognizing me for helping me start, that this was all Dr. Pigman.
It's all PR. Sure, can you go to, show the one of the videos, can you go to
Yeah.
the rehabilitations?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Great job.
Yeah.
This video, we are going to show you a couple of ideas for early rehab after Achilles tendon rupture repair.
You already, you don't have to show all the videos.
Yeah, just a part of
There's
it.
several
assessment
and excellent resources in here that.
Yeah, with it. And there's also, this was a really good one. This video here actually like broke down a study, yeah, that went through different returning to sport.
Go ahead. I always have questions, but this, I have to say, you guys win the prize for like the best questions asked by them. I'm gonna reply, go ahead.
Yeah.
There are a lot of injuries that athletes get. What made you specify on the Achilles tendon?
So I honestly chose the Achilles tendon because it was just, there were many different mechanism injuries that went into it. And there was just, the Achilles tendon is such a hard injury to come back from. And I was just really interested in finding out the different percentages of athletes that actually get back into competition.
Do you know if there's a sport that injury happens more often?
Yeah, so it was mainly happening within basketball, soccer, and within running.
Okay, so great job.
Thank you.
Two questions. I was gonna ask that question. So did you get a sense of why those sports tend to be higher incidence or higher prevalence? And did you too get an idea of what the overall prevalence of Achilles tendon rupture is, like in the United States or in the world or in athletic populations? Like, are we talking about 1 in a million, 1 in 100,000?
So for the second question, it was outside of the literature. I'm not really sure for that one. For the first one, it was mainly like within those athletics, it happened due to footfall patterns and explosive like aspects within the sport.
So I have a sort of methods question for you.
Yeah.
First of all, I love that the literature that you reviewed led to you just being able to sort of, like, this is based on data and this is based
Yeah.
on information. And to me, that's sort of like, you know, what honor students should be doing in terms of like thinking about issues. And so thank you for that. I was just wondering, like, so did you start this out with a skill to be able to create a website, or was this something like, I was just wondering how you figured out how to do a website and what sort of work you had to put in to learn that?
Well, I sat down with Dr. Pigman and learned how to use Google Sites and just kind of put it together. I had never done this before. So,
I'm learning as you go. I've done it with other students, with other capstone projects. They're pretty user-friendly, but you do have to kind of develop the site itself.
Yeah.
So you're not writing the code in a sense, but as far as the outline, the structure of it, and all the contents, you already have to develop it.
Yeah, I've tried to create websites and found it to take it.
Yeah, it's a lot of.
And I just a comment to all of the students, and I know we've got one more presenter, but, you know, think about some of the skills that you've acquired through this project. I mean, when we start off doing an honors thesis, I think students are thinking like, why do I have to do this? Like, what does doing a lit review do? And what is, you know, and I think, you know, the research skills that you've put in and the analytical skills that you've done and some of the filmmaking and some of these more creative skills as well, just remember to, when you're applying for jobs, that these are skills. These aren't just classes. These are skills that you've acquired in terms of research, analytics, creative projects, all of that. Make sure that you work with someone to know how to package that on your resume, because I'm just like thinking about all the work that you all have done. It's just really, really impressive. And if you just say, well, I did an honors capstone or I did an honors thesis, you're not going to capture all that. So learn to market it, because it's really impressive so far. So, because you've done both, I mean, many of you who've done these projects have started out by doing, you all have to do lit reviews, by the way. That's my line in the sand. But then where you go with that research, and that's hard enough, but either you're interviewing people or running surveys or doing content analysis or whatever it is of your creative projects, they all require a huge amount of skills that somebody will want to hire you for. Just want to do that well there. So, thank you, Karen. I think this is it, right? All right. So our final presenter for this session, and we have, I think, 3 more sessions after this, so we're about halfway through. You're welcome to stick around for that, but our final presenter for this session is Jenna Molly, a health studies and health science student working with Dr. Megan Mullaney. Sorry, Megan Delaney, sorry about that. I knew there was something wrong when it came out of my mouth. Go ahead, Jenna.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Jenna Moley, and I'm going to be presenting a little bit today about my honors research project, which evaluated undergraduates' major correlation with college students' complementary and alternative medicine beliefs. So my research question asked, does undergraduate major correlate with higher attitudes towards complementary and alternative medicine? With the sub-question asking, does undergraduate major correlate with the intent to integrate complementary and alternative medicine into future careers? So essentially, I wanted to see if students of certain majors were more likely to have more positive attitudes towards complementary and alternative medicine than students in other majors, and also if major played a role in the belief that they would use these tools in their future career. So what is CAM? CAM stands for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. Complementary medicine is going to be any non-conventional medicine approach that is used in conjunction with modern Western medicine. So these non-conventional medicine methods can be things like massage therapy, meditation, yoga, holistic medicines like traditional Chinese medicine, anything really that falls outside the realm of Western medicine. And then alternative medicine is going to be when those non-conventional approaches are used completely in place of modern Western medicine. So why is this important? Why did I choose to research this? Research has shown that individuals all around the world are increasing their use of complementary and alternative medicine, specifically college students. And these students are in a unique position because they might go on to use these in their future careers. So for college curriculum to develop full curriculum that educates students, it's important that they know which students are going to be using this in their future career. So prior to doing my research, I conducted a literature review, and these are some key themes that I found from that. So as far as demographics, females tend to have more knowledge of and use complementary and alternative medicine more often than males, and a higher education is also associated with using CAM more often. Observational learning refers to who you surround yourself with. So if you come from a family where, or have a lot of friends that use complementary and alternative medicine, then you yourself are more likely to use it. Belief in control of one's own health is exactly as it sounds. So how much do you believe that you play a role in your health? So individuals that play an active role in their healthcare processes tend to be more open to using complementary and alternative medicine. And then fields of study has been looked at somewhat in previous research, but it's mostly at the graduate level, and it mostly only focuses on healthcare students. So I saw a little bit of a gap in previous research that it wasn't really focusing on undergraduate level, and it didn't really look past those going into the health field, but I hypothesized that there would be other students besides health students that would use complementary and alternative medicine in their future careers, such as social science students. A little bit about my method. So it was a descriptive cross-sectional study. The participants were students here at the university that were in their undergraduate years and had a declared major. So a survey was sent out to students that included demographic questions and then the CAM Health Belief Questionnaire, which is a previously adapted questionnaire that's been used in other research. And this is basically a 10-item questionnaire that students are asked to rate statements about complementary and alternative medicine on a scale of 1 to 7, where 7 is absolutely agree and 1 is absolutely disagree. And then it also asked a question regarding belief in CAM use in future careers. So how likely did the participant believe that they were to use complementary and alternative medicine in their future career? And then these scores were grouped by each participant. So participants of similar majors were grouped together, and the averages were calculated for majors as well as schools. So I found that the political science, computer science, and health studies majors had the highest CAM Health Belief Questionnaire score, which indicated that they had the most positive attitude towards complementary and alternative medicine. In addition, the university also groups their majors into different schools, so there are 6 different schools at the university. So when looking at the data by school, the School of Science, the School of Nursing and Health Studies, and the School of Humanities and Social Science had the most positive attitudes towards complementary and alternative medicine. Then looking at how likely did these participants believe that they were going to use complementary and alternative medicine in their future careers. So history, nursing, and health studies majors had the highest belief that they would use complementary and alternative medicine in their future career. And then again, looking at it through the groupings of schools, the School of Nursing and Health Studies, the School of Education, and the School of Humanities and Social Sciences had the highest belief that they would use these tools in their future careers. And you could see the School of Business had a very low belief that they would use complementary and alternative medicine. So overall, looking at the data, students at the university tend to have a positive attitude towards complementary and alternative medicine. We also found that there is a correlation between an individual's major and whether or not they have this positive attitude. As predicted, those majors that fell in the science and pre-health area as well as social sciences had a more positive attitude towards CAM. We also found that a more positive attitude towards CAM also lends itself to the belief that you will use it in your future career. So overall, the research shows that individuals at the university in various fields, not just the health fields, are open to using these complementary and alternative medicine therapies in their future career. So it's important that colleges look at which students are likely to use them so that they can properly educate their students on them. So I'd like to thank the Honor School and Dr. Delaney, who worked and helped me immensely with this. So thank you, Dr. Delaney, and thank you all for listening.
Great research. Was there any major or school that shocked you that had a more positive outlook on CAM than you thought was going to?
Yeah, the School of Education had a high belief that they would use complementary and alternative medicine in their future career, which I was surprised by because they weren't among the schools that had the most positive attitudes. But I'm assuming working with kids, there's a lot of ways that you could integrate these therapies into their career as well.
Just to follow up on that, because that was part of my question. So what do you think, if anything, should be done to maybe explore that disparity in those majors in school education, because they were the lowest, right, in terms of their beliefs, their beliefs that it would work, but pretty high in terms of, I'm going to use this one day. So is that discrepancy worth exploring?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to see, there mostly was that correlation, but there were some that didn't have a correlation. I think also with one of the limitations was there wasn't a large participant pool, so those might just be a few students in the education major that don't have high beliefs but know they have to use it. But if we had more participants, there might be other students that have a much more positive attitude towards it.
I've heard from students that they no longer trust traditional medicine post-COVID. And I'm wondering if you see a possible surge in the use of complementary and alternative medicine post-COVID.
Yeah, definitely. One of the other themes, I didn't get to go through every theme because the lit review was very long, but one of the other themes was actually attitude towards healthcare. So individuals that tend to not really trust their healthcare tend to look in other places such as complementary and alternative medicine. So I definitely think with COVID that people who become wary of traditional medicine might be looking in other places.
was complementary and alternative medicine something that you had known about prior to doing your research on this project? Is that like something that you're into?
Yeah, so I actually there's one course here at the university that talks about complementary and alternative medicine. So as a health studies major, I took that course myself, and I realized that there are a lot of tools at my disposal for my future career in healthcare. So that's kind of what got me interested in this. And through the class, I started using meditation as well, which I found to be very helpful.
Yeah, along the same lines, I was just going to ask what you've learned and how this has informed your future career. Is there anything different from the study that you're going to do in your future?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important going into the healthcare field. You're going to have a lot of different patients, and I think it's important to be able to have different tools to use for different patients. So this offers a lot more opportunities of different ways to help patients, and especially getting patients from different cultures that might be more leaning towards complementary and alternative medicine because it's what they're comfortable with.
I'm sort of thinking about the political science students, and I'm wondering, maybe they're just so cynical and they understand how structures work. We're staying away from that, we'll go somewhere else. So, but I was sort of surprised by the business and students, and I am, particularly because it seems to me, and I don't have data for this, but I've been hearing about, businesses that are bringing in massage therapists, for example, so do like a half-an-hour chair massage just to sort of get their group, and are using sort of alternative kinds of therapies just to build culture. So I'm just wondering, and I don't know whether we have anybody from the school business. You do, okay. So bring it back to your dean and your chair, and I'll talk to Dr. Dean Raj. But how do we build this into, because it could be part of a business culture and a business model where you could actually really create a much more productive and relaxed and enjoyable work environment if you encourage people to use it. And the other thing is that health insurance doesn't always cover this.
Yeah.
So, you might cover acupuncture or it might cover chiropractic, but it doesn't generally cover massage, for example. And so I'm just sort of wondering whether that's another sort of the business aspect of it seems really important to me. So I'm sort of surprised that the business students let us down.
Yeah, I think it just has to do with exposure to it. Like, I was only exposed to this through the class here, and that class, there's only really one class that specifically talks about complementary and alternative medicine at the university, and it's mostly targeted to health studies and nursing students, so I think it might just be a lack of exposure to it.
Maybe we should open more sections.
Yeah.
There you go. And cross-listed with Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So just a couple of comments. The students that have interviewed people and who have conducted studies often had to get IRB approval, which is a whole nother level of doing stuff. So kudos to you, those of you who actually went that route. It's not an easy one. But I hope you all appreciate in the audience just the depth and breadth and range of work that our honor students are doing. They're not necessarily, some of them are doing work in their own major areas, some of them are not, and so it's just really amazing to me. The honor students never cease to amaze me as to where your interests lie and how multidisciplinarily focused you are, and so I just want another round of applause for our student presenters. Coming up next, we do have another group starting in about 10 minutes, but I want to invite you all. There are refreshments in the other room, and I want to thank you all. Like I said, this was a fabulous audience, so thank you for that, and feel free to stick around, but thank you.